Okay, today we're going to be talking about distance and midpoint. And we're going to start out with midpoints. So to find the midpoint, first of all, we need to know what the midpoint is. The midpoint is a point on a line segment that divides into two congruent segments. So given that point B is the midpoint of AC, what I need to do is I need to construct a line segment, and we are going to make that a little dot here on the end. So I have line segment AC. So line segment AC. And then I'm going to put a point B on there so that I have a midpoint. Now my conclusion is that AB is equal to BC. Now, to find the actual location of a midpoint on a number line, all you do is add the two numbers together and divide by 2. For example, this is a number, this A is -7, B is 4. So that means -7 plus 4, and then divide by 2. So you're just finding the average. So that's -3/2, which is really just -1.5. So that means the midpoint, not AB, this is the midpoint. The midpoint is located at -1.5. So -1.5, so about right there would be my midpoint. Again, we're going to find the midpoint of TV, not the length of TV. So I'm just going to put MP for midpoint. So T is located here at -4. V is located at 1. So using the same formula again, I just add these two together. So -4 plus 1, and then divide by 2. So find the average again. So -3/2. And wouldn't you know, it's -1.5 also. So 1.5 would be about right there. So that would be our midpoint. Now when you're finding the midpoint on a coordinate plane, you do the same thing. You just have to do it separately. You have to do your x's and then your y's. And this is the formula, x1 plus x2 divided by 2. And it's on your formula chart. y1 plus y2 divided by 2. And it's in the form of a point because you're actually looking for a point. So what I'm going to do down here is label. So this is x1, y1. This is x2, y2. And I'm going to use this formula up here. So I'm just going to add the x's together. So I've got -9 plus 5 divided by 2. So that's -4/2, which becomes -2. Now I'm going to put my commas here. And I'm going to do the same thing with the y values. So now I'm going to add my y's. 3 plus 7 divided by 2. That's 10/2, which is 5. So my answer, the midpoint, is at -2, +5. So now I'm going to plot the points. So I go over 9 and up 3. 1, 2, 3. So there's point K. And 5, 7. So 5, 7. So there's point H. And then my midpoint is -2, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that should be my midpoint. And then I'm going to connect my dots. So let's see if I can get just a plain old line segment here. So going through there, and now I can conclude that Km is congruent to MH. So this piece is congruent to this piece. So let's try it again. So start out by labeling our points. We have x1, y1, x2, y2, and then let's do the math. Let's add the x's together. So we've got 2 plus -8 divided by 2. Well, 2 plus -8 is -6 divided by 2, which is -3. And then I'm going to put my commas here. And then I'm going to do the same thing with the y values. So the y values are -7 plus -4 divided by 2. So that's -11/2, which is -5.5. So my answer is -3, -5.5. So if we plot the points, so 2, -7, so that's about right there. So there's point W. And 8, -8, -4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's point T. And then my midpoint is at -3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5. So about right there would be the midpoint. And if I connect them through there, and I'll make that a red dot, so the midpoint should be about right there, then I know this piece is equal to this piece, so I can conclude that TM is congruent to MW. All right, so let's find the midpoint of AB. So here's x1, y1. Here's x2, y2. So if we draw a picture, so think about it, if you have a grid, if you go over 8 and down 6, so this would be A, and then you go backwards 14 and up 12, that would be like somewhere up here. We know the midpoint is somewhere between those two generally, so somewhere in here. So let's just do the math. So x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and then add the y's, y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So I'm just going to plug them in. So 8 plus -14 divided by 2, that's -6/2, which is -3. And now I'm going to do the same thing with my y values. So I've got -6 plus 12 divided by 2. So that's 6/2, which is +3. So my final answer is -3, 3. Okay. Now, sometimes I'll actually give you the midpoint, and I want you to find the other end. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to play with it on the graph, and then we're going to do the math. So here is x1, y1. Now this is your midpoint, so I call this xm, ym, where the m stands for midpoint. So this is the midpoint x and the midpoint y. All right, so let's plot them. So we've got 2, 1, 2, 3. So this is our end point. And then we've got 3, 1, 2, 3, -1. So this would be the middle. So I need to find the other end. So I know it's got to be down here somewhere. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to think, okay, from here to here is one space. So there's 1. And then from here down is 1, 2, 3, 4. So if I went to the right 1 and down 4, then from here I need to go to the right 1 and 1, 2, 3, 4, down 4. So my other end point, so I'll call this endpoint 2, should be at 4, -5. 4, -5. So now, let's do the math and let's see how it works out. So I know that if I add the x values together and divide by 2, I'm going to get the x value that's in the middle. I don't like the fact that I have a fraction, so I'm just going to multiply both sides by 2 to get rid of that denominator. So it cancels. So all I have to do is add the x's and then multiply the middle by 2. Oops, that's supposed to be in middle. So now I have this endpoint right here, 2, plus, I don't know this endpoint. I'm going to find out what it is, so I'm just going to call it x, equals 2 times the x that's in the middle, which is 3. So I get 2 plus x equals 6. And if I subtract 2 from both sides, I get that x is 4. Check. That's what we got. So now let's do this all over again, but with the y values this time. So I'm just going to rewrite this, but using y's. So y1 plus y2 equals 2ym. And we'll talk about this more in class. So y1 is 3 plus y2, we're looking for it, and then 2 times the middle, which is -1. So now I've got 3 plus y equals -2. And if I subtract 3 from both sides, I get that y is -5. Check. So my final answer The other end is located at 4, -5. So we can do it graphically or algebraically. We get the same answer no matter what. So let's try it again. So we have our x1 and our y1. We have our x2 and our y. Oops, no we do not. We have a middle. So we're going to call this x1, y1, x middle, y middle, because it's the middle. So let's go over here and plot 5, 8. So that's the end we know. We'll call that end 1. And 4, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. There's the middle. So I need to find the other end. Well, if I'm going like this, I know it's going to be down here somewhere. So let's go from here down and then over 1. So how many did I go down? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I went down 5 and I went over 1. So from right here, I need to go down 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and over 1. So I need to be right there. So 3, -2. So 3, -2 is what we're finding out on the graph. So using that same formula a while ago, so x1 plus x2 equals 2xm. And then we'll do it with the y's. y1 plus y2 equals 2ym. Okay, so x1 is 5. We're looking for x. 2 times 4, because we want to plug in the xm. So we get 5 plus x equals 8. Subtract 5 from both sides, and we get that x is 3. Check, that's what we got graphically. So let's try the y values. So we get 8 plus y equals 2 times 3. 8 plus y equals 6. Subtract 8. And we get that y equals -2. Check. So the other end is located at 3, -2. So we'll call this end 2. All right, we're going to stop the video here, and then you'll watch the second video over distance.